A taste of our own medicine, China turns our rhetoric against us. Given the recent juvenile display of leaders of the free world, who let dress code banter slide to Boris Johnson inviting the media to view his private parts, it may be fair to compare the current West to the sorcerer's apprentice and his helplessness in controlling the spirits he has summoned. Western foreign policy had prioritized the export of ideological values over strategic interests for decades, if not longer. The West exerted hegemony over large parts of a supposedly post-colonial world through values like democracy, human rights, women's rights, and climate protection. This didn't always lead to war, but the West was always willing to use these cards to exert pressure and advance its interests. The West is the best, you say. It's better to export our values than be subjugated ideologically. This is possible. In the West's heyday, Christian missionaries crossed oceans to spread Christian culture. Modern morality has left its Christian roots. While Christianity teaches that humans are imperfect and fallible, modern hypermorality is superior and dominant. Modern identity politics are more rigid than any ideological course in the past, which is unsurprising given their love of socialism. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Western values and hypermorality have been used to keep international competition in check and maintain the last word on the world stage. It would be foolish to assume that these made the West popular abroad. Generations have criticized the West's moral superiority. Observe something new. Other powers are immune to our moralizing and giving us a taste of our own medicine. Putin's rhetoric about denazifying Ukraine is a blatant example. The Great Patriotic War has never lost its mythological appeal in Russia. Russians know this. While the myth has always centered on Nazis sneaking into Russia and Russians heroically repelling them, the idea that Russia should remove Nazis elsewhere is a new element in Russian rhetoric that seems blatantly adapted from the West's obsession with spotting and combating Nazis everywhere to this day. China has long been more subdued. China seems to rely on its role as the kingpin in its envisioned multipolar world order, partially motivated by a culture that allows politicians to use flower and butterfly analogies while ordering millions to their deaths. For years, China's foreign policy emphasizes mutually beneficial trade over legitimate Chinese interests. In recent years, the mirror has become their preferred rhetorical weapon. Zhang Jun, China's ambassador to the UN, spoke at a General Assembly meeting on June 20th to combat hate speech. In his remarks, he emphasized China's support for the UN in combating hate speech but raised three specific concerns. His first concern was an information pandemic caused by stigmatizing rhetoric and inaccurate information on COVID-19, which disrupted international solidarity and cooperation in fighting the pandemic. His second concern was the rise of extremist ideologies causing discrimination against African Americans and Asian Americans. Third, Islamophobia has reached epidemic levels, the envoy said. The Chinese ambassador called on other countries to abandon arrogance and prejudice. He said the international community cannot tolerate hate speech eroding common values. He reminded us that humans live in a global village. We are suddenly confronted with a Chinese foreign policy that turns Western talking points against us. There can be little doubt who these remarks were aimed at, lest we ignore that one day later, Dai Bing, China's deputy permanent representative to the UN, blamed hate speech between countries for confrontational feelings around the Ukrainian conflict. According to recent Chinese statements, the West is guilty of hate speech against Russia, which prolongs the war. On the same day, Zhang Jun blamed NATO expansionism for the Ukraine conflict. The West is staring down the barrel of its own guns, which could become literal if arms deliveries to Ukraine aren't traced. It's self-made. Hate speech isn't uniquely Western. Hate speech was a local issue in a few African and Asian countries until 2015. Except for a short spike in early 2013, when an Indian politician was arrested for spreading hate speech to sow division and ignite a coup, only a few African countries showed constant and genuine interest in hate speech, with Kenya being an annual front-runner. Hate speech became a popular search term in the West during the 2015 migration crisis. The Charlie Hebdo attack in France and Donald Trump's candidacy sparked increased use of the term. Since then, it's gained prominence in the West due to discussions about introducing hate speech laws, colleges enforcing hate speech guidelines, and Facebook hate speech policies, all three of which are some of the leading trending Google searches of the last few years. To control internal dissent, the West adopted hate speech. Some must be shocked to see it used globally and against us. Who would have thought adopting a concept as alien to Western free speech as hate speech from Kenya, India, and China would come back to haunt us? We're not just outgunned by hate speech. With China leading the market for electric cars in production and usage, it's only a matter of time before CCP representatives prove they haven't forgotten our mocking of the dirty Chinese industry and fire a few salvos back at us for not living up to our own environmental goals. Germany's green government just reopened a few coal plants to save gas for winter, so this could happen this year. Rhetoric matters. These subtle jabs are part of a confrontational international discourse. Just as the West used ideological pressure to advance its cause, others are doing so to us. It's a brutal reminder that we're losing our cultural hegemony, if we haven't already, and that bugging other countries with ideals we rarely live up to isn't working. Only by rethinking our values and how we want to be represented in the world will we be able to survive and be a force for good. Hierarchies will continue to exist whether the G7 manages to maintain the unipolar world order or China and its BRICS affiliates establish and stabilize the new multipolar world order. The reprimands of other countries about our shortcomings are a preview of when the West is no longer number one. By looking to other civilizations' grimoires for inspiration, the West has lost its greatness and resorted to social control spells. The West becomes more vulnerable with every socialist concept adopted. By sacrificing our uniqueness, we've become another master's apprentice.